Do I remember correctly that the director, was that Michael Curtiz?
Yes.
Said to you, just sort of play in the middle?
Yes, yes.
Because you didn't know which man
Don't
you
give
were
too much to one or the other, because they hadn't decided.
She was supposed to be untouchable. That's what they said about Ingrid Bergman. Pure, graceful, a Swedish rose frozen in time, forever perfect behind crystal blue eyes that seemed to see into the soul of anyone brave enough to look back. But the world didn't know what Hitchcock knew, what Peck knew, what the rain knew on that fateful night in 1945. Years after she was gone, a single letter surfaced, a private confession written in her own trembling hand. And it revealed everything. The affair that shook Hollywood, the photographs that arrived like a curse, the man she whispered about with her dying breath, and the question that haunted everyone. Who was he? And what did he mean to the most captivating woman who ever lived? It started with a number. Ingrid Bergman had just conquered Hollywood. Gaslight made her a queen. Then came Hitchcock's audacious pitch, Spellbound, a psychological thriller built on Freudian dreams and psychiatric impossibilities. She read the script and laughed. "This is absurd," she said flatly. "I don't believe in love born from amnesia and delusion." That's what she told the director. That's what she meant. But Hitchcock just smiled. That knowing, patient smile of a man who understands human nature better than humans do. "You'll change your mind," he said, his eyes glinting with quiet amusement. "Just meet your co-star." She didn't want to. She'd made up her mind to walk away forever. But then came the afternoon in 1944 when everything shifted. One door opened. Gregory Peck walked through it. He wasn't what she expected. Taller, calmer. Blue eyes that didn't perform or seduce. They just saw. He smiled and said something simple and forgettable. Something about Miss Sweden. But what she felt wasn't simple at all. It was the kind of recognition that happens once, maybe never. The kind that stops time. Every sound in the studio vanished. No director's voice, no rustling papers, just him, just her. Just the electricity between two people who shouldn't have felt anything at all. Selznick watched from across the set, reading her face like a script. "Read a scene together," he commanded. Peck stepped closer. His voice dropped low and steady. "I don't know who I am, but I know that I love you." Something fractured inside her, a physical sensation, like glass breaking inside her chest. She couldn't look at him. She pretended to shuffle the script, hiding her hands because they were trembling. She couldn't let anyone see. But what happened next would change everything. The next morning, she called Hitchcock. "I'll do it," she said. No explanation, no hesitation. She didn't need Freud or psychology or any rational explanation. She was following instinct, pure animal instinct, and she knew exactly what it meant. On set, the tension became unbearable. Hitchcock noticed immediately. He'd clear his throat, sneeze conspicuously, anything to break the charged silence that filled every moment they shared. During one intimate scene, Hitchcock directed Peck to hold her hand, "Until she believes you're not the patient." When the camera rolled, his hand found hers, warm, steady, but she felt a tremor running through him, confirmation that he felt it too. Their eyes met. Both began to shiver. When Hitchcock finally called cut, neither of them moved. They just stood there, drowning in wordless silence. That night, Bergman wrote in her private letter only one line. "My God, I've gone mad." The thing about being married is that everyone sees it as a fortress, but fortresses crumble from within. Bergman's marriage to Dr. Peter Lindstrom had become a cold distance measured in rooms and silence. He was practical, rational, a neurosurgeon who'd brought her to America and then quietly stopped trying to understand her. Every morning on set, she told herself, "This is work. You have a family, duty, responsibility." But the intimate scenes with Peck, the touches, the embraces, those made her lose her mind in ways she couldn't control. Then it happened, a moment that crossed every line. Hitchcock whispered during a scene, "Hold him a little longer, Ingrid. Let the emotion find its way." She did. When Peck looked up, his eyes weren't acting anymore. Everything was real, raw. He gripped her hand after the director called cut, refusing to let go, a plea without words. That evening, standing by her window at home, rain beginning to fall outside, Bergman whispered to the darkness, "God, I've made a terrible mistake." She threw on a wool coat. She was going to leave when suddenly he was there. Gregory Peck, standing in the rain, hair soaked, shoulders heavy with something that looked like heartbreak. Her heart clenched. Before reason could intervene, she stepped out into the downpour. "What are you doing?" she shouted through the rain. He turned. His eyes held burning desire mixed with pain. "I can't pretend anymore," he said, his voice almost lost beneath the storm. "I can't." She froze. The world seemed to dissolve until only they remained. He moved closer. One step, then another. When he stopped in front of her, she could feel his breath mingling with cold rain on her face. "Gregory," she whispered, trembling, "don't say another word." But he did. He touched her face, a touch so gentle it shattered her. And then he kissed her. Not tender, desperate. The kind of kiss that erases months of pretense in a single moment. Rain streamed down their faces. His hands gripped her shoulders. She surrendered completely, kissing him back with equal intensity. When they finally parted, the rain hadn't stopped. Neither spoke. Only their breathing filled the space between them. Peck looked at her with aching longing. "I know you have a husband," he whispered, "but God, I can't hold it in anymore." Bergman closed her eyes, her voice broke. "Gregory, let us be only the characters in this film. That's all we can be." But that was a lie. What began that night was real in every way that mattered. Gregory Peck sent her a note 3 days later. Hotel Bear, 11 p.m. At 10:50 p.m., hidden beneath a wide-brimmed hat and black coat, she went to him. When she arrived, he was waiting with white lilies. The only flower she'd ever said made her believe in gentleness. They sat across from each other, talking about everything and nothing. The film, their loneliness, the pretense that had become their entire lives. She told him about a husband who didn't understand. He listened without judgment, only compassion. "I've tried to forget you," he said finally. In that instant, everything she'd suppressed erupted. Guilt, fear, desire. When she left the hotel, she clutched the lilies inside her coat. The next day on set, no one noticed anything different. But when their eyes met during a scene, everyone could feel something had fundamentally shifted. And from that morning forward, white lilies appeared everywhere, each with a single note. "Last night, still the scent of you." They met in secret. Hotel rooms became their sanctuary. He was passionate, willing to risk everything. She was torn between bliss and terror. Each time she returned home, her husband felt like a stranger. Each time she left Peck, she felt herself dying a little. Then it arrived. An unmarked envelope tied with red string. Inside, photographs. Her and Gregory in a cafe. In a car under a streetlight. In a hallway. The hotel. Everywhere. Across one photo, a message. Hollywood always has eyes. She waited for the blackmail, for the threat, for the explosion. But nothing came. The silence was worse than any scandal could have been. It hung over her like an invisible rope, suffocating her, forcing her to live in constant dread. That's when she ended it. At a private screening of Spellbound, she finally told him the truth. "We're living in a dream that isn't real, Gregory. It's time to wake up." Peck froze. His eyes became those of a child who'd lost his only refuge. "I love you," he said, voice trembling, "and I always will, even when this dream is gone." She turned and left before the tears could fall. He didn't follow. He just stood there, watching the door close, surrounded by her perfume and the ghost of what they'd been. On set, they still saw each other daily, but an invisible wall stood between them now, cold, solid, impenetrable. Peck tried. A lingering touch after cuts were called. Faint smiles remembering rainy nights. Sometimes he'd stay behind, silently hoping she'd turn back. She never did. Years passed. Decades. Both moved on. Both loved other people. Both built separate lives across an ocean of silence. But in 1987, when Gregory Peck was asked about Ingrid Bergman in a People magazine interview, something broke open inside him. He began to talk about her in a way he never had before. "I truly loved her," he said, his voice trembling. "All I can say is that I truly loved her. I was young. She was young. We were bound together for weeks of close and intense work. It was the first time he'd ever spoken her name publicly in connection with love. Then came 1982, August 29th, midnight. Ingrid Bergman took her final breath on her 67th birthday in a London hospital room. Her former husband, Lars Schmidt, held her hand. In those final moments, she opened her eyes and looked into the distance, and she whispered something so softly that only Lars could hear. Years later, his voice still trembled as he recalled her final words. "I still think of him." No one asked who he was. Everyone knew. After 40 years, she was still thinking of Gregory Peck, still thinking of white lilies and rain, and a kiss that lasted decades. When Gregory Peck read those words after her death, he wept, the only time anyone ever saw that dignified, measured man completely undone. Perhaps what they had was never meant to last. Perhaps the universe knew that some love stories don't need happy endings. They only need to be deep enough never to fade. Two souls who found each other for just long enough to prove that true love exists, not in forever, but in memory, in whispers, in the names we speak with our dying breath when everyone else is finally gone.